What's up, y'all? It's TruthTiger, and I'm going to talk about how people these days are very lonely and they're very isolated. People don't really have friends anymore. There's not really solid community anymore. People just don't really come together with community gatherings like they used to. I remember when I was a very little kid, like very young, like maybe 3 years old or so, we would have block parties. And all the neighbors on the block would all come together, and people would make food, and people would come out, and they'd hang out, and they'd get together. But somewhere along the line, people just kind of stopped doing that. Neighbors stopped knowing each other. People stopped hanging around each other. People stopped making friends, and everybody just became so lonely, isolated, and lost in their own world. I think technology is partly to blame because you can just spend so much time on social media and playing video games and watching TV and stuff like that, but there's got to be some other stuff to it, because I just think, I don't know, I think people have become very egotistical, very self-centered. They want to feed their own ego. They want to satisfy themselves. They don't really want to take out the time that they need to help others out, take out the time to build friendships, understand another person, empathize with another person. So people just really end up very lonely and very isolated. And not only that, but the quality of people has gone down. People's morals and ethics have gone down. People's love for one another has gone down. People have become a lot more toxic, a lot more fake, a lot more shisty. And it's hard to really find people nowadays that you can really trust. People that are not going to stab you in the back, not going to snake you out, not going to mess around with you. And that's another reason why people don't have friends. And I used to be like that because I couldn't really, trust people. And I'm starting to get past that, but it's very tough to find people you can trust. I mean, stuff is getting very crazy these days. People are getting scammed, lied to, and just people are very very selfish. There's a lot of just very manipulative, conniving people that are just going to kind of make your life miserable. And the thing is I reached a choice in my life where I can either be alone or I can just be around a bunch of people I don't really want to be around. Be around a bunch of people who are toxic, have drama, are manipulative, are fake, gonna play games, just people I can't really trust, people I don't feel safe around, people that are just not gonna really do good things for me. And I had to make the hard choice just to be alone, and that's why I was alone and isolated. And I'm obviously working on building up good people and taking those steps and making good friends and, finding people I can trust that I can really talk to, because the thing is with a lot of people, it's they're very judgmental. And I've had a lot of friends in the past where if I wanted to have any kind of real talk, if something was heavy on my chest, if I was struggling with something, if I really needed someone to talk to, they were not there for me at all whatsoever. Not even close, not even my own family, and there were so few people in my life that I could really talk to. I'm finding those people now that I'm doing stuff differently, but for the first part of my life, there weren't people I could talk to about my issues. I mean, there are people that want to judge you, want to hold things over your head, or they're just so caught up in their own selfishness that if you want to have any kind of conversation where you're speaking about an issue you're having or something you're struggling with, or they're just they don't want to hear it. They don't want to help you. They don't. You're there to feed their ego. You're there to hang out with them and keep them company. You're there to put up with their drama, and you ain't really there for anything good. And I also found that a lot of people I knew they didn't really have any kind of ambitions whatsoever. They were just down to do the bare minimum, not get ahead, not learn new skills, not build anything, not go anywhere, and just kind of stay where they're at for the rest of their life. And, just being around that, I didn't want to be around people that were just going to stay stuck. And I knew a lot of people like that were just going to stay stuck and were not going to do better or advance or really go anywhere in life. And, when you're around people like that, it's very, very disheartening because you're not seeing anybody do well. You're not seeing any kind of victory or success or change or improvement. You're not seeing people overcome obstacles. You're seeing people just stay stuck in the mud and not move forward. And it's a tough thing to see, it's a tough thing to see, and it's a tough thing to be around. And and it's like I just kind of got to a point where I'm like, I'd rather be alone than be around these kind of people. And I think a lot of people are starting to kind of come to that realization and conclusion that they have people around them, but they feel alone. And that was the truth about my life. Like, there was times in my life where I had a lot of friends, but quote unquote friends, but I wasn't really around anybody who cared about me or who understood me or who I could really talk to at all. Like, not at all, and I realized, like, I'd rather be alone than deal with that. And now I'm like starting to get higher quality people that I can really talk to, that can help me, that have ambitions and goals, and people that are kind of that I'm on a good level with. But when you're around people that you're not on a good level with, it's like you just don't even want to be around them. And you could be at a party, a house party with 20 people at it, and you could feel just so alone. And I felt that way, where I'm like, I feel so alone because nobody I'm around actually cares about me as an individual at all. At all. And, people choose to isolate. And, with these kind of people, friendships fall apart. There's falling outs, there's drama, there's fights, there's issues. There's just always some stupid drama and some stupid kind of crap going on. And, and then it's like people are so in their own ego. They're so caught up on their own selfishness. They're so caught up on social media, on perceptions, on whatever. And they just they don't really even have any space for people in their life. They're just so busy smelling their own farts and being egotistical. And it's like you can't really build a community with all these ego people. People are going to hang around each other for a bit. There's going to be some falling out and whatever, and it's not going to really work. It's not going to really happen. And if you want to have community, it's like you got to have a group of people that are actually treating each other right and are doing good and are doing the right stuff. I mean, there's that old saying, thick as thieves, i.e. when you're doing the wrong stuff and you got buddies that are doing the wrong stuff and you're doing the wrong stuff together, but it's just you're just kind of binded together in destruction, and that's going to fall apart in the end of the day. And there's a lot of people like that are just I'm a loser, you're a loser, let's just be losers together and we'll just all fail. We'll all fail together. And you just don't want to be around that. You don't want to be around that at all. And in the end of the day, that's not going to lead to any kind of meaningful friendship. And that's going to lead to breakdowns and fall aparts and stuff like that. And, and I really think that's why people are so lonely. Because I think there's definitely people that don't have friends. I went through a phase in my life where I had no friends, I did, but I think most people do have friends. They just don't have friends around them that really care about them, that understand them, that are positive or good for them. They're just kind of around these whatever kind of people, and whatever kind of situations. And, I think it's people want to feel understood. I was around people that did not understand me, did not make any effort to understand me, did not want to understand me, did not care to understand me. They just kind of were all right, this guy's cool enough. I guess, I want some people to kind of bop around with. He can be around me, I guess. Sure, why not, And that was kind of it, and it's okay. And I think we want to feel understood, and I think we actually want a bond and a connection, not just some super surface level, we're all just kind of standing in the same room together talking about nothing. I think people really want people they can have an actual bond and a connection with. And you want people who are on your side, who can help you out. I've had so many people where if I had a problem and if I needed help or backup, they ain't backing me up. They're gonna run at the first sign of trouble. For real. Honestly, And I've had people that were acted like they were my friend, but really they were very fake and backstabby and sneaky and trying to be out to get me and trying to disrespect me in sneaky little ways and stuff like that, So it's you got to really be careful out there. There's a lot of just very fake people, fake situations. People have really forgotten just how to be decent. Hold on, give me a sec here. Yeah, I'm good. People have forgotten how to be decent. People have just forgotten how to be a good friend. People have forgotten how to like look out for each other, help each other out, care about each other. And people have just like forgotten like some basic common decency. And when there's no common decency, it's going to lead to a lot of loneliness, a lot of isolation, a lot of people just not having friends, not having community, not having help, not having support. Because that's the thing, is like we all need support, emotional support, people to help open up opportunities for you, people to help introduce you to people, maybe introduce you to a job or something. You never know, but we all need support. We all do need to like support each other and help each other out. When one person falls over, the other person can hold them up, and you can kind of hold each other down and keep each other going. And I think for most people, their definition of friendship is not like support, having your back, helping you out, being on the same team. For them, friendship is more just like someone you bop around with every so often. That's a friend, but there's no actual care or help or support, or there's no actual like loyalty, or there's nothing like that going on. There's nothing like that going on. It's just kind of you're there, they're there, whatever, And for a lot of people, I felt like I wanted to be loyal and help out and, be on the same team. But that just wasn't the vibe. That wasn't the vibe with them. That just wasn't what they wanted. They wanted to have some kind of people they could bop around with. And for a lot of the narcissists, they want someone they can kick around. They can mess with. They can take advantage of. They can take their bad day out on. They can just like randomly out of nowhere cause some problems for no reason, And again, like these narcissists are growing. Like there's more and more of them being made and produced every day. And they're very jealous and they're very selfish and they're not your friend. They're going to try to cause problems for you out of nowhere. And honestly, with like these narcissistic kind of people that are just out to get you, out to cause problems, out to be weird and annoying any way they can, just very egotistical and selfish and seeing you as competition, like they're gonna try to a lot of times be a fake friend or act fake nice or whatever. Like with these narcissists, you got to kind of detect them, figure out what the deal is, and just ignore them entirely. Ignore them entirely before they cause some problem for you out of nowhere. And the truth is, with narcissists, you cannot have a friendship with them. You cannot have a bond with them. You cannot have community with them. You cannot have fellowship with them. You certainly cannot date them or marry them or anything like that. And when you have like so many narcissists growing in society, it's like there are these people that like you can't be friends with. And there's just more and more of them being produced because of how selfish and egotistical our society is. It's the truth. And there's a lot of people that I wouldn't describe as narcissists, but they're just like super apathetic. I talked about them earlier. Like they'll kind of be, you could be around them and they can be around you, and they won't like stab you in the back or cause problems. But if you need any help or support, or if there's any kind of sense of like loyalty, or we support each other, we're on each other's team, we're on each other's side, we help each other, we got each other's back, there's absolutely none of that. And for me, it's like, all right, if someone like I know does not even have my back at all, doesn't care about me, like like if I'm talking to some random person in the line at the grocery store and we're just kind of talking about the sports game or just kind of BSing about whatever, it's like, that's all that is. Like, I'm not gonna like go out of my way and go over to someone's house and spend hours around someone or some group of people for that. It's like, what even is that? Like, that's just like you talk to some random person at the bar, or you talk to some random person at the store. Like that's all that is. It's just like some random chit chat, and it's like with that kind of person, like I guess you could kind of be acquaintances with them, but you can't really be friends with someone like that. And with the narcissist, you cannot be acquaintances, you cannot be friends, you can't like really be around them or mess with them at all. You kind of just have to put up a wall and keep them on the outside. And with these kind of just acquaintance kind of people, it's like, you can have some acquaintanceship with them, but in terms of being an actual friend and in terms of someone that's actually got your back and is on your side, nah. And I feel like people used to have each other's backs more, used to look out for each other more, used to help each other out more, and used to just like just like have more positivity with each other. And I feel like the positivity in the world is just dying down. It's dying down, and it's causing people to become like isolated. And the thing is, like, when it's time, when you have them, and when it's like, when things are just kind of more about survival, you're trying to survive, you're trying to get through the day, like you figure out real quick, like, what's a good use of your time, who you can hang around, who's for real and who's not for real, who's like, you know, got your back and stuff. And when things become about survival, like, the people who are selfish are going to really show that they're selfish. The people who are narcissistic are going to really show it. The people who are apathetic are going to really show it, you know? And I feel like it's a lot of people just trying to survive. But I feel like back in the day, it was a lot of people have always been trying to survive. Like, that's nothing new. And I feel like back in the day, it was like, we're all trying to survive, so let's band together and let's help each other and let's talk to each other. Like, I've had some crappy jobs back in the day where there was definitely like this mentality of like, we all got to survive together and help each other out and look out for each other so we can all get through this, you know? And nowadays, it's just totally gone away. You know, nowadays, it's just like, it's every man for himself. You know, that's really the mentality. Every man for himself. And it's just like, how did we come to a point to where people have just become so selfish and so self-centered? You know, like, how did we get there? Like, I don't know. I feel like it used to be easier to make friends. I feel like people used to be cooler. I feel like people used to care a lot more. Now it's just people don't even care anymore. Like, we're really living in evil, wicked times, and the heart of your average person really is, it's just not good. It's really just not good, you know? And there's just so many people that just have drama and issues and just want to drag you down and cause problems, and, you know, it's tough. And there's good people out there. There are good people out there. They're just not the norm. And, you know, I want to go in a positive direction with this. I want to end this in a positive direction, so I'm not just kind of complaining about things, you know. We do need to come together and build community and support each other, you know. Like, wherever you're at, like in your local area, like, try to find one decent person that actually is a friend that has your back. One decent person that, you know you can hang around with, and that's like going to be good for you, you know. Just try to find that one decent person and try to build some type of group and build some type of community, and, you know, just be like, because we got to change this. We got to change this, because if this keeps going on, like, everyone is going to be isolated, lonely, and just miserable, you know, if this keeps going on. So we have to move forward in some kind of a better way, you know. And I'd really encourage everybody to try to be as friendly as they can. Don't be friendly with the wrong people. Don't waste time on the wrong people, obviously, but to try to find those few decent people that still exist, and to try to come together and to try to build some type of community. And, you know, because we all got to support each other. We all got to help each other out. Like, we can't do all this crap alone. You know, I used to really believe that I was a lone soldier and I could do everything myself and F everybody else and da-da-da-da. And I really realized, like, I need help, I need support, it takes a village, like, all of that is 100% true. And, you know, we should definitely work to try to find decent people and to try to make friends and to try to build, you know, because people having, like, real friends is more rare than you'd think. It really is. Like, there's a lot of people I know out there who do not have friends. And, you know, I mean, some of them is for a good reason. Some of them are like narcissists and stuff, and have stabbed so many people in the back and pushed so many people away, and have, you know, like, just put so many bad vibes out there that people don't want to be around them. And, you know, a lot of them are just apathetic, and people realize, like, what do I need to be around this person? But there's decent people out there. There's decent people out there who have good things to give, that don't have friends, that really deserve to have friends and deserve to have people in their life. And, you know, if they could find other people that are on their level, they'd be so much happier. Like, you know, and if you, like, finding that meaningful connection, it would make things so much better. And I really feel like if we had meaningful friendships and meaningful community, there'd be a lot less narcissists. And there'd be a lot less people who are just like apathetic and don't care, because, you know, when you have good community and good friends, you all kind of hold each other accountable. You know, there's some sense of like, hey, this person's being a dramatic, annoying, like a pain in the ass weirdo. Like, hey, like, that's not okay. We don't like that. And I think when there's some kind of community, there can be like some accountability for people who are just have the wrong energy, you know? And I think same for people who are just apathetic and don't care. Like, if there's some kind of community, there's like accountability. And I also think like when people become isolated, like they start to just become friends with their own ego. You know, that's really what happens when people become isolated. You know, because they don't have any real friends or real allies or real people who care about them or real people who have their back or are on their side or are with them. You know, people start to just kind of befriend their own ego, befriend their own imagination, and in a lot of cases, unfortunately, they start to befriend their own, like, delusions of grandeur, which is what really happens. People start to just, like, you know, kind of befriend that instead of having any kind of real friends, and then I think people get very narcissistic and weird and isolated, and, you know, I don't know exactly how all this happens necessarily. I mean, I've been isolated to get away from narcissists and whatever, but, like, I really think people just become isolated and disconnected from the tribe and from the group, and, you know, because, like, back in the ancient days of, like, the hunter-gatherers, you had your tribe and your family, and you guys worked together and, you know, did things together, and you shared ideas, and you bounced things off each other, and, you know, like, having, like, those decent, solid people around you can talk to and get perspective from and stuff like that. But I just think people have become selfish. They're like, I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I'll only be around people who tell me what I want to hear. And then it's like, now their friend pool gets a lot smaller, and there's less people who want to be around them. And I also just think, like, people don't really stay in touch the way they should. And I've had a problem with this myself. Like, I'm guilty of this myself. Like, there's people who I could have stayed in touch with better, and I'm working on that a lot right now. You know, I'm working on fixing that a lot right now. But it's just like, you know, people don't really stay in touch well the way they should. You know, people just, like, forget about people. And I just think people, they're so caught up in, like, work. They're so caught up in, like, hobbies. I don't know, you know. It's like people just don't really want to really even make time for people in their life. And I don't know. I think a lot of people also just, like, they want to be they'd rather be a friend to their own ego than be a friend to someone else. And I think, like, having some kind of true friendship and bond and community does take some level of, like, humility and just, like, being kind of a normal person. And what you have now are these, like, ego freaks, people who are just so up in their own ego and so selfish. And when someone's like that, it's like you really can't you really can't have a bond or a connection with another person, because they're so, like, self-centered, and they're so into themselves, and they're so about themselves, that it's like they don't really have any capacity to even bond with another person. They don't really have the capacity to connect with another person because they're just so self-centered. And I think we're seeing a lot of that. And it's leading to a lot of loneliness, a lot of isolation, and, man, you know, like, it's just leading it's just leading to this, like, lonely new world that we're having. And I don't want the world to be this lonely place. I don't want the world to be this lonely, disconnected place, you know? And I think you need some authenticity. You need some genuineness. Like, people are so fake these days. People are so fake and are not really real or genuine, and they're just trying to put up a front and project a false image. And, you know, people got to be genuine, and they got to be real, you know? And a lot of people, they're just, like, so needy. They're trying to get something out of you, you know? And, you know, we can't just be, like, trying to get things out of people. And there's a lot of people that want to use people and take advantage, and, like, that's not going to lead to any kind of good connection or friendship or romantic relationship or anything like that. That's just going to lead to a bunch of BS. It is. So yeah, like this world, like people are just so isolated and so lonely, and man, it's not right. It's really not right, you know. I really want, just with this video, I guess, like, to do something, to put something out there to try to change this, to try to make this better. Because the thing is, the media doesn't care, the government doesn't care, the education system doesn't care, the military does not care, organized religion does not care, the healthcare system does not care, the mental health care system does not care, the UN does not care, the banks do not care, the corporations do not care. Like, my point I'm trying to make is the system and the societal institutions, they do not care about this at all, at all, at all. They don't care about you or me. So, like, it's going to take people like you and me to talk about this and try to be more friendly with people and to try to build more community in our areas and stuff like that to fix this, because the system, the great beast 666, the societal institutions, they care about money and the world, and they don't care about this kind of crap at all. And the media might talk about it a bit to try to, like, get some views and get people to watch their stuff, but they don't have no solutions. They don't care. And, you know, like, to make my final point to end this video, because I've been going on pretty long, is, like, I think people have just become so about societal institutions. People have forgotten about the people around them, forgotten about the communities of people around them. And people have replaced actual communities with, like, people that they can be friends with, people who may have differing opinions, people who they can have conversations with. They have replaced that with the media, with politics, with the education system, with the healthcare system. And I really feel like people have replaced the system with actual community. And people have decided, no, I want to be more about politics and more about the machine and more about the system and more about money and more about the societal game than to actually be about friends and community and people around me. And people around them, I mean. Well, around me too, you know. But I really think, like, people have chosen societal institutions and the government and all this crap over actual community around them. And it's like, the people around you, you can find people around you who care about you. It's not everybody, but those people exist. Like, the governments and the corporations and the healthcare system and the banks, like, they do not care about you. They do not care about you at all. And I don't get why people are... I mean, I get why people have been deceived and people are selfish and egotistical. And the more people become selfish and egotistical, the more they're going to put, like, belief in the system and not, like, really be friendly to people around them and stuff like that, you know. I get that. I understand that. But, you know, it's really crazy, though, that people are choosing the system over actual friends, over actual people, over actual connection. Man, it's really nuts, you know. But, man, it's like people are so lonely and isolated these days. So I'm going to end this video here. Thank you all so much for watching. Much love. God bless. I will see you all next time.